Hello and welcome to Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. I'm back. I've got a fantastic local guest with me. Before I get round to introducing her, as always, if you could like, rate and review the podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe to the channel, all that, share it amongst your friends. Don't forget we have a Buy Me a Coffee set up to support the podcast if you so wish. Log on to www.buymeacoffee.com, search Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast, HWOM, and you can make a small donation if you so wish. The content will always be free, but if you want to support us, that would be wonderful. And finally, my mum is still walking all over cancer for March. She's aiming to do 10,000 steps a day. I will post a link to her funding page in the show notes. Over to our guest, Chantele Rashbrook, a little bit of a deal local legend. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well. And you know what? I have to be honest, I've been a bit nervous about this one. I don't know why. And we just said off air, you're probably more used to this sort of thing than me with everything you've done over the years. So let's just run a free promo. The Clifftop Challenge. Just talk us through it. We're going to talk about it later, but let's get it in early while we've still got some listeners.
Yeah, Clifftop Challenge is a big running event we hold each year for breast cancer now. I think we've raised well over 130 grand over the years we've been holding it. It includes running basically longest distances, 55 miles from Hastings to Deal. And on the way, you can pick up other distances like 36, 26, 15, 10 and 5. And then back on the green in warmer for bands, music, big finish line, food, drink, and just a great after party after a good run.
18th of June?
18th of June, yeah, that's right.
Excellent. I've got the date right. I got something right. I myself am signed up to the 16 miler this year. So it's like brilliant. I've paid my money. It's on the podcast. I mean, it's fantastic. £130,000 plus. Absolutely amazing. And you know, it's for breast cancer now, and that is going to form the basis of some of our chat tonight, Chantele. We're going to try and be as upbeat as possible about the subject. It's possibly not the greatest subject in the world to chat about, is it? But I've titled this podcast Living the Best Life, and it's potentially a funny title because I said it's the sort of phrase that gets thrown around and potentially agitates people in a way, blah, 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 living my best life on Instagram. But you are a person who lives with cancer. It's as simple as that. You're potentially on a limited time frame, whether that's a nice thing to say, that's a fact, almost potentially. So you should be, and you do seem to live the every day as your best day. Can we sort of discuss things? Let's discuss things prior to that awful day. You got told. How did you go about your life prior to that day?
Prior to that day, just normal life, you know, kids, busy, running the house, family. Kept very fit at the time. I guess I was my fittest at the time. I was diagnosed back in 2012. Did a lot of running. That was my main thing. Had a running club, you know, full of women. And so it was a big old shock considering my life before was very, very normal. Enjoying myself, going out, good friends, all the normal stuff, and having a young family at the same time.
So was there a period of, were you struggling, or was it a routine check and the doctor called you in and said, I've got some bad news?
Yeah, I mean, not struggling. I found a lump basically in my breast and thought, right, I'll go to the doctor. Because to be fair, as women do in certain ages, I've always had lumps and bumps, which is most women will understand that can be quite normal at certain times of the month.
Okay.
So, and I've been before that to get them checked and there was nothing there. But this time there was a lump and she just said, I'll get you referred. So within 2 weeks I was seen, and it was a shock because everything on that day I went in, because I didn't tell anyone, I just went over and got it done. It was bish bash bosh. Basically, I got looked at. Next thing I know, I'm having scans, biopsies, all mammograms, all in the same day, and was given the news pretty much there and then.
Wow.
And that's where it started.
Yes. Very emotional time, I can imagine. Very scary time, I can imagine. That first day or those first few days, just a complete blur, or can you remember your initial? Was there the initial? I mean, thoughts of. I've got written in front of me. There must have been the thoughts of impending doom, or are you? Were you able to see the? Were you able to initially recognise the fight?
Yeah, I think obviously you do have the dark moments when things go through your head and think, oh God, you know, my dog's going to outlive me type silly, just really crazy things sometimes at the time. But I think myself, being a very positive person anyway, had made that a positive family, husband, kids, even though they were quite young then. It just made me just get on with it, which there's a lot of people that can't. But so yeah, it was all a bit of a blur because it was all so very quick and lots of biopsies and lots of appointments, and but I couldn't wish for any better care. It was amazing, and how quick things were done. If I'd left it or ignored it a few months down the line, who knows, you know. So there, it was all put into place.
Wow. There's the first bit of advice, I guess, for this episode. We're not huge on advice in other episodes, but this is an important episode, really. So girls and boys, I should say, lumps and bumps, get them checked. Chantel's just told us she got it checked ASAP. Get them checked. It might be nothing. If it is something, the sooner you get it checked, the better chance you've got.
Exactly.
So you've been told you've been told you've got cancer. You go home and have to break it to those closest to you.
Yeah, pretty much. That day that I was in there on my own, I just came out and thought, and one of the young healthcare workers that was there, I actually sort of knew from the pub, and it was great she was there because she stuck with me and walked to all the different appointments with me, like from my scans, etc. And then my husband was away. He was up north, so I come home, went straight to my parents, told them. And then had to tell him. He came home the next day. There was no point in rushing back at that time. And that's when things started moving in different scans, bone scans, PET scans. All the scans are a little bit scary because you're wondering what else they might find.
Yeah, of course. I suppose your brain takes you to the places you'd rather it didn't, but you assume the worst, I expect, at certain periods.
No, you do, because you're worried what they're going to pick up. All the initial tests were just concentrating on that one area, but obviously they have to make sure that it hadn't spread, or where it was in the breast, and how, if it was in, if it was contained or not contained. So that was a bit of a process for the first few months, and then hanging around waiting for a chemotherapy start date. That, for me, I found that quite tough because everything just flowed, and then I was sitting around just waiting. I just wanted a date. I just wanted to get started.
Yeah, like you say, you're positive, proactive person. And you don't, I guess, is it fair to say that all the time you're not receiving treatment, you must have that thought in your brain that I want to start this battle. I need to get going, and every day is a day wasted almost, isn't it?
Yeah, you do feel like that. You do feel like that. You just want, I did. You just want to get it started. And so once I got that phone call, that was a big relief, actually.
I can imagine. But you've still got to be, you're still a mum to two young children at this time in 2012, aren't you? Talk to us a bit about that. I mean, without going into too much detail, how you have to put that brave face on. We said you're positive, you're proactive. Let's sort of get this fight going. But, you've got to get on with being a mum with this in the back of your mind. Were you very open and honest with the kids, or did you
very, because with them being younger, obviously it's trying to help them understand it, because they don't fully understand it. But Phil was very good, sat down and spoke to them, and he said, you know, mum's going to lose her hair and things like that, but that's not the cancer, that's the drugs. And I think, I mean, they were amazing, but I do also think that's down to us being very positive and very open about everything.
Yeah.
Told them absolutely everything, never hid anything, because there's no point, because they'll hear you on the phone, or they might read a text, or, you know, so very open. And in a way, they've lived with it.
Yeah.
They really don't know any different. So they've lived it with me, and thankfully have seen me not be unwell with it, like some people automatically think. As soon as you got cancer, that's it, you're in bed, you're in a wheelchair, you sit on the sofa all day. Yes, unfortunately that does affect some people like that, but for me it didn't. I was just getting on and being normal. I was still running when I felt able to run, still keeping active. And yeah, the chemo does take it out of you, and there's days that you don't feel too good, but they were brilliant. And like I say, they just sort of, they were used to it.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but I think because of them that age, they couldn't, it was too hard for them to process future.
Yeah.
If they were older, then it may well have been different.
Yeah, I suppose they potentially at an older age, they might have been forecasting negative thoughts down the line, but at the age that they were, in a sense, their brains weren't developed enough to
and
see
too
that.
naive. Yeah, exactly.
Naive, very good word.
Yeah.
So is that the way you approached it? That's how you've always approached things as a family? That wasn't a sort of change of direction or a change of plan? That's just the way you'd always been?
Yeah, that was just us. I mean, obviously this was the first thing my son was born partially sighted, so we've had a lot of ups and downs with him from the day he was born, and traveling to Great Ormond Street sometimes 3 times a week with the baby in arms, you know. And so in a way we were built quite strong because of that, and always stayed very positive because of that, because there was also days with that we thought, God, you know, we may have a son that's not got any sight, or he may lose his sight. And so I think in a way that made us even stronger.
Well, it's almost a bit of a cliche, but you almost turn that negative into a positive in a way then, as best you could.
That's it.
Fantastic. So we move on to sort of I've got bucket list written down in front of me, because it's a word that might, or a phrase that might aggravate certain people, but we've been friends on Facebook for a few years. Your social life is potentially one of the busiest going. I mean, I don't know how you manage. You're always somewhere doing something. I wish I had your energy, the family's energy, because you seem to be doing it together when you can. You know, obviously Charlie's back from university now, but even when he was away at university, you always seem to be getting together doing stuff. Amazing. And I would assume that's how you were as a family. Did you think we might want to hit the fast forward button a bit? Was there stuff you maybe thought, shall we get some stuff in now just in case?
Maybe, you know that whole cliche, making memories and things like that. But also we have always been like that. You know, our trips away, our holidays away, our skiing holidays as a family. Lake District, doing all the things in this country as well, Lake District, visiting Cornwall a lot. You know, we've always wanted to do it as the 4 of us. I guess that with my diagnosis maybe does make you want to do a little bit more than you may normally would. And thankfully our kids don't mind us joining in, and like you say, us going up and having a great weekend in Bristol with all his uni mates and things like that. And so I think because we're quite down to earth as well, and enjoying
and enjoying each other's company is a fantastic thing, isn't it?
That's it.
So I probably should have asked you earlier on in the podcast. We're not too far into it. You live with cancer. It's managed with medication. So we probably should have mentioned it. So you are living daily with cancer, managed by medication, but what the doctor, so there's no time frame in front of you? No.
No,
In a
I've
negative way. No.
Yeah, no. I've never been given so long. I mean, even when I was first diagnosed, I was always told it's treatable.
Yeah.
So obviously I was diagnosed, had chemotherapy, had radiotherapy, went on a particular drug called tamoxifen for a while, and then I went into remission.
Yeah.
And then about a year later, I found a lump at the side of my neck, just under my ear. I was sort of chatting to someone. I thought, maybe it's just a raised gland. Anyway, got it checked, and then boom, it had spread from my breast to my lymph nodes and up here where my lymph nodes are, and there was areas on my lung. So of course, boom, smack in the face, here we go again. So they put me on another round of chemotherapy because they didn't want to remove any lumps or anything because of it's a bit scary going in. It could just spread them. As soon as you let someone out, they could just go, go all around the body.
Yeah.
So it's basically secondaries, breast cancer secondaries. So even though it's on my lung, it's not lung cancer, it's breast cancer on the lung. It's that gene, it's that cell, sorry. Went through chemotherapy again for 6 months. She then took me off it for 5 months and put me on this amazing drug that I'm still on now, called Kadzyla.
Yeah.
And I've been on that since 2014.
Okay.
So a long time. So I'm on that every 3 weeks. And it's an amazing drug. A lot of women weren't entitled to get it because it's so expensive. But through Breast Cancer Now, the charity, I did a lot of work campaigning and up at Parliament and things like that, and meeting the big wigs of Pfizer and NICE and all the pharmaceutical guys that say, no, it's too expensive. So I'm on that every 3 weeks. And then I can't really say the nice thing about it, but I don't lose my hair with it. It's minimal side effects.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are some side effects.
Yeah.
But nothing I can't cope with or not live with.
Yeah.
So the whole time it's working for me, I stay on it. Obviously, if there was any changes, then they'd have to reassess. But even though they can't see anything at the moment, if they were to take me off it, I'd never get it back because it's a funded chemotherapy drug.
Right. Okay.
So that's why the whole time I'm tolerating it, my oncologist wants me to stay on it for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Very obvious reasons. I mean, well, that is a very open and honest insight into living with cancer, Chantele. Let's move on to something a bit more positive. Running. It's a very simple title. I've got the next point on my notes. Like you said at the start of the podcast, it was a huge part. It still is a huge part of your life in a way, isn't it? Just talk to us a bit about running and where it started, really. Were you always a runner?
No. I started running. My friend Karen, many years ago, got breast cancer and she passed away. But before she passed away, I thought, well, I'll do the Race for Life. And that then got me a bit into the bug for running. And then I started getting other girls together, and then Carnival Regatta Week, the 10K and the Raft Race and doing all that, and got a group together, and someone said, oh, you should do this, you should start a club. So I did. I started Rashbrook Runners when I was running a lot, and most of them turned into marathon runners because of it. And they're still running now, and the club doesn't really meet anymore, especially since COVID. And I used to do a lot of running. I even ran the London Marathon on this drug. So, well, not on the drug didn't get me round, but while I'm taking this chemotherapy, I did the London Marathon. So it was, it didn't stop me doing that. So running was a huge part of my life. But unfortunately, my breathing now, which it's nothing to worry about, it's just, as my doctor put it, something's got to give. You've been on chemotherapy for so many years. Something's got to give. And unfortunately, it's your lungs are clear. There's nothing to worry. There's no scarring. But my breathing, so I had to stop running because I just couldn't do it. And I got frustrated. So I just channel myself with other fitness classes, walking, because I've got to fill that void.
Yeah. But we mentioned it at the top of the podcast, the Clifftop challenge. So let's just go into a little bit more. Another fantastic chance to plug it. So
Yeah.
how many years now? What edition will this year be? Edition 8?
I think
9?
it's the 8th
8?
year. I'm a bit lost with the whole COVID thing, but I think it's the 8th year. So yeah.
8th year. And
yeah.
you mentioned about roughly £130,000,
yeah.
which is amazing. I saw on the social media that, are you up to 70 runners so far this year?
Yeah. The last time we looked, there was 70. Yeah.
And how does that stack up to previous events?
It's about right. People tend to leave it right close to the closing date, and then all of a sudden we get a huge influx. So yeah, I mean, we can have up to 400 runners.
Wow.
So we try not to go over that, because obviously the admin side of it and the support and that en route, it can be a bit difficult, but we've mastered it now. Phil looks after all the runners and deals with them.
Yeah.
From Hastings onwards, and looks after them with a great support team. And they're all volunteers. They all help, which is amazing. We couldn't run it without all our marshals and volunteers. But no, it was just an idea years ago. I thought we want to do something for the charity, and we live on the cliffs. And Phil being a bit of a long distance runner as well, it just started off with a bit of an idea, and that was it. It's turned into a huge event every year.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. Just sort of talk to us the first year. Did you give yourselves plenty of time to plan it, or was it a bit of a let's see how this goes? Because it's obviously developed into, you've just said potentially 400 runners. That takes some organising.
Does.
How did year one go? Was it a fairly smooth operation?
No, it was. We had the finish line outside the King's Head on the prom there. We had it there for a couple of years. Bands and that outside and everything, but then it just got too many runners and too dangerous on that road. But yeah, no, it was easy. It was still pretty well organised, because we're all quite good organisers, to be fair. And Phil, with his military background, he definitely loves a bit of organising. And it was fabulous. Yeah. And ironically, I think, was it the first year? I think it was the first year. Or was it the second year when I found that I had secondaries? So it was even more of an achievement, to put it all together. And then we moved to Walmer Green, because we needed a bigger area.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I live up in Kingsdown, work in Sandwich, so I know when it's on every year, because that's my sort of route home. And you guys are out there. I'm going to work at 5:30. I don't think I've seen you there that early, but if I come home sort of sometimes between 7 and 8, you're already on the go getting things ready.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So again, let's plug it again. If you fancy a challenge, as Chantele said, you can run anything from 5 to 55 miles if you so wish. The entrance fee is £35, but it all goes to charity.
It all goes to the charity. Yeah.
So
direct to the charity, but you can set up a Just Giving page if you want as well, so you can raise extra funds. That's easy enough to do.
And we will, of course, I will post the link in the show notes to that. It's going to be a busy show notes. This is, time's flying by, Chantele. I do a little bit of running myself. I still can't class myself as a runner. I don't think I'll ever be able to, but I do run. But we also share another common interest, and I like to talk. Well, I go around on a snowboard, but I like to talk to other people who find the mountains as amazing and intriguing as I do. That something you and Phil had in common, or you and Phil did before you met, or was it? How did you get into skiing? The kids come along, let's give it a go. Or...
Yeah, well, Phil, being in the Marines, in the section that he worked in, where he did a lot of skiing. Well, he telemark skis. So, and then, I mean, the kids again were quite small. It was before my diagnosis. We just started going out to this place in France, and I'd never skied before. The kids had never skied before, and that was it. Then every year.
It's a fantastic holiday, isn't it? I even said it to my boss the other day, because his son is running, or his son's school are running a trip. Amazingly, they're running a trip to Canada. But he asked me, about it, and I said, I'm probably the least spiritual person you're ever likely to meet, but there is something about the mountains that is good for your soul. And coming from me, people are just going to say, what on earth is he waffling on about? But it's hard to explain. Being up, perhaps it's the thin air, but being in those mountains is
and above the clouds.
Yeah. And it's the best holiday going, isn't it? But where are you heading off to?
We're going to Les Contamines next week, which is very simple. We've gone back to the same resort every year so far, for a long time, because with me not being, I haven't skied for that long. It's just great for all of us. I mean, the kids are demons.
Yeah.
Even Charlie, being partially sighted, he just goes. He just feels the ground and goes. He may not even see it properly. He just hits it when he hits it, and all his other senses kick in.
Wow.
But no, it's a great holiday. It's hard work.
It is hard work, but I'm not the best sleeper in the world, but when I go skiing and snowboarding, I sleep very well and very comfortably. That's a piece of advice number 3: try a ski holiday. Chantele, this has been a wonderful chat, hugely insightful for me. A couple of things I want to just, if we can sort of wind the podcast down. We've done amazingly well. We said we don't want to get emotional. We try not to get any tears. We've been so positive. Can I ask you for a couple of bits of advice from a woman who lives with this awful disease, manages to be such a positive person? How do you motivate yourself on a day when things aren't good? You're not feeling great. You're a bit down. You're having a bad one, but you still got to be a mum. How do you? You've still got to be a wife. You've still got to be a friend, a daughter. How do you motivate yourself? Bit of advice for someone watching this, because obviously anyone who's listened to some of my podcasts, I've had my issues with anxiety over the years, and I'm not going to put anxiety anywhere near cancer. But it's a dark day. How do you deal with your dark days?
I'm very lucky that I haven't had many. I think that's just down to the person I am, and I keep busy. Don't get me wrong, I've had a few, but really not many to ever make me think I need to go and sort myself out or talk to someone else. I think because I'm so open about it and I've got so many friends, I always recommend you've got to talk. You've got to keep talking. Doesn't matter if you cry the whole time. You've got to keep talking and meet other people going through the same thing, because it's always great to hear how well someone else is doing, because you think that can be me. They're doing really well. Yes, there are the sad things, and I've unfortunately lost, and only a year ago last week I've lost a dear friend again through it, and some other far too many, all through breast cancer, and most of them I've met through breast cancer. I think you just allow your dark days, allow your day on the sofa when you're feeling a bit down. If you want to cry. I mean, I cry at most things nowadays, and and the kids just look at me, go, oh, here she goes.
She's off again.
It's just those emotions. It's you got to allow them, but also don't let them rule your life. You can't let it rule your life. You've just got to crack on. You've got to get up, and if you're feeling like that and you think, no, do you know what, I'm just going to walk around the block, go, just walk, just get up, go in the garden, look out the window, and just get on and motivate and exercise. If I didn't have that, and I know it's not everyone's bag, but for me, it's kept me going, because with the running, I could run up until recently, just go out with your mates or out on your own. And that's why I feel the void with my other stuff that I do. You've got to really try and pull it out the bag.
I mean, I'm gonna not write my book one day, but if I ever put pen to paper on a few things, I mean, you are in a period of recovery that is different to the recovery that I am in. But my recovery is different to other alcoholics, other addicts. But my recovery would be based on, number one, talking to people, as you said. It's something I wasn't very good at. It's something that could have potentially saved me from getting to the point that I got to. But I'm a man, I don't talk. I didn't talk like I should have. I had the opportunity to talk, and I didn't. But I do now. I will tell my wife when I'm having a bad day. And you know what? she understands and she gives me good advice and helps me get over. It's amazing.
That's it. Yeah. That's the thing. You got to talk.
Physical exercise would be the other thing. I was always pretty good. I always played cricket and football as a youngster. Then I did a badminton, squash, always rode my bike. But since I've found running at the plodding along pace I do it at, but it's amazing. But anything, like you say, I would, in very early recovery, I walked down the garden and raked some leaves. It was actually a bit of a poignant moment for me because during active addiction, I tried to rake some leaves up in my garden and thought I was actually having a heart attack. I thought, this is it. My time has come. So one day I actually went and raked those leaves up sober once, and it was just what I needed. It's very strange. I think that's pretty much going to be a great place to finish this chat, Chantele. Physical exercise, talk to people, accept the bad days. They will come.
Exactly. They've got to come. You've got to allow to have bad days. Otherwise your head will never be clear. You've got to allow it. But don't allow too many. And
if you're thinking about doing something, if there's something you want to do, get out and do it, eh?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's have one final plug for what we're on. So the Clifftop Challenge, June the 18th. Get your application form in. Come and run 16 miles with me. It'll be very slow. And don't forget, my mum is walking all over cancer. My dad is suffering from incurable lung cancer, but he's battling on as everyone does. We will beat this horrible disease one day. Chantele Rashbrook, thank you so much for joining me for a wonderfully honest chat. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Oh, I don't think so. Just thank you for asking me to come along and do this. It's been great to see your face. It's been ages.
I don't go to the pub. I do go to the pub, but I don't go to the pub.
But not like we used to.
No.
Yeah, we'll skip past that bit.
Yeah, but no, it's been fantastic. And if we can going forward, if we can help, if Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast, can help with any sort of promotional work or anything, we'd love to help. Chantele, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Stu. It's been great. Cheers.